Good morning, everybody. I'm sure you can hear me. I want to welcome everybody here to our annual Veterans Day ceremony. And we'll start off, if everybody could please rise and uncover, we'll start off with prayer. O God of hosts, we bow our heads in thankfulness for the victories thou hast granted us. And to those peoples who have united with us to stamp out the evils of aggression, intolerance, and greed, we beseech thee to bring the blessings of understanding to the families and friends in this and other lands of those who have given their lives that men may be free. Grant, O God, that those closest to the fallen may mingle the pain of their losses with the ennobling light of sacrifice for civilization, sacrifice for a better world for this and other generations yet unborn. Grant us too, O God, the courage to so live with the family of nations around the world that the end of strife will be the beginning of enduring peace. Grant us patience in planning with our fellow men and women a world in which nations may resolve their differences by peaceful means. Recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recover, and you may be seated. On this day, Veterans Day, we are commemorating the service of veterans of all wars. We remember how men and women set aside their civilian pursuits to serve their nation's cause, defending the freedom of mankind and preserving our precious American heritage. We believe our strength on the field of battle, on the supply lines which nourished our armed might, lay in the justice of our cause against the forces of evil. We believe our determination made us better warriors because we fought with our minds and our hearts as well as our bodies. We recognize service to our country, and her cause does not end with the termination of military service. We continue our endeavors in behalf of an honorable world peace with a feeling of profound gratitude to God and to the men and women who gave their lives as part of the cost of this noblest of causes. Out of blood and sweat, we learned of purpose, sacrifice, tolerance, bravery, and discipline. These are solid foundation stones upon which a great nation is built in our continuing quest for an honorable world peace as we may cultivate these virtues. And I'll have a few words from the auxiliary representative.
The waging of war involves more than just the combatants who fight to the death and on the field of battle. The fighting forces begin at the fireside and in the hometowns. The repercussions of war's terrible brutality have chilled the heart and dimmed the hopes and dreams of many a loved one left behind on the home front. While the horrors of the battlefield may not have been our experience, we have lived with the terrifying loneliness created to answer an aggressor's challenge. In waging war, we have moved forward with a unity of purpose which made us strong, forgetting pettiness, egotism, and pride. Our hearts beat in tune with those in other nations fighting for freedom and the dignity and opportunity of mankind. In our constant quest for the honorable world peace, there is need for unity of purpose if we truly are to move forward for a brighter tomorrow.
And we will now have words from our First Vice Commander.
If there be glory in war, it is the almost incredible spirit which is engendered. Those who offer their lives, sacrifices their all, with magnificent abandon. Heroism becomes categories. Yet, too in warfare, greed and brutally are expedited. Too often, it is these later which persist in the peace that follow. Let us strive to see the same spirit, the self-sufficiency inculcated in peace as has been exhibited in war. It behooves us to rear new standards of success, to inspire youth in peace as youth was inspired in war. Public honor must be given where public honor is due, not to be manipulated or a marker, the seeker after profit, power, or position, but rather let us honor the heroes of science who liberate human sacrificing and carrying to greater heights than standards of civilization. Let us honor those who in public service seek not how much they may secure from the nation, but how much they can give. Let us honor those who devote their lives in the education which will render our children to the lives and laugh and learn and love as we have only dreamed of doing. Let us honor those veterans who carry into ordinary affairs of life a noble idealism and sincere captivity for those selfish devotions. Let us translate the devotions of war into the devotions of peace. Let us will to live as well as die for our country.
Thank you. And now we'll have a few words from one of our women veterans.
The hurts of war fall upon those who wear the same uniform, no matter how they may differ in race, creed, or culture. Those who fight together, suffer together to achieve a common aim. In the similarity of battle dress, there is a common denominator, the common purpose, the sharing of danger and suffering, which brings in time of war a tolerance which adds strength to the cause. As we put aside the brown and blue and green fabrics that made us one people on the battlefields, we can hold in our minds that tolerance we have achieved. In tolerance, there is progress, progress toward a better and a happier world.
Thank you, Linda. In time of peace, we can use the ennobling virtues of war and put behind us its ugliness and suffering. In peace, we shall go forward together to scale new heights of achievement in unity of purpose, in sacrifice for the common good, in tolerance for those of different faiths and creeds, in bravery to fight for the social and economic gains, and in the discipline of good citizenship. We shall move forward in the sight of God as a strong nation in a peaceful world. Horrible, ghastly, and ghoulish. These are some of the adjectives Medal of Honor recipient David Bellavia used to describe the battlefields that he saw in Iraq. But even so, the U.S. Army Staff Sergeant said it was also a place where he saw love. Quote, "You see people doing these things for each other that they would never, ever do in any other circumstance. It is a sight to see," unquote. It was during the height of the Iraq War in the Second Battle of Fallujah where Staff Sergeant Bellavia distinguished himself by rescuing an infantry squad that was pinned down by machine gun fire while the soldiers went house to house to clear the city of insurgent strongholds. Bellavia's actions during a pre-dawn mission on November 10, 2004, made the former non-commissioned officer the Iraq's first living recipient of the military's highest award for valor. Putting himself in that position is what sets him apart, according to retired Sergeant First Class Colin Fitz. Fitz credits Bellavia's actions with saving the lives of the 3rd Platoon Alpha Company that day. While Staff Sergeant Bellavia's valor is exceptional, even amongst the extraordinary, his mindset is common within the men and women who serve our great nation. His heroism is one story of the millions of living veterans. By virtue of your attendance today, it is clear that you hold our nation's heroes in high esteem. But how many of their stories do we all truly know? Like the story of Army First Class Monica Lynn Brown. PFC Brown was a combat medic assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division when she was deployed to Pataki Province in Afghanistan. On April 25th, 2007, a roadside bomb tore through her convoy, wounding 5 soldiers. After the explosion, 19-year-old Brown ran through insurgent gunfire and used her body to shield her wounded comrades while mortars fell less than 100 yards away. Her citation reads, "The military said her bravery, unselfish actions, and medical aid rendered under fire saved the lives of her comrades and represents the finest traditions of heroism in combat. Her bravery and actions in the remote southeastern Afghanistan province will lead her to become the first woman to earn the Silver Star in Afghanistan and just the 2nd woman to do so since World War II. Again, the exceptional in the extraordinary. Camaraderie, warrior ethos, esprit de corps, all words we can use to describe what it means to be a veteran and to have served in our nation's military. In each other, we find community. We find it at American Legion posts and in Facebook groups. We find it in the familiar decal on the rear window of a car or the license plate that is affixed to it that is passing by. We often see ourselves in one another. When news got out that a Vietnam War veteran had no living relatives to attend his funeral, the veteran community was there. Friends of Wayne Wilson had put out a call for people to come to his burial service at the Silverbrook Cemetery in Niles, Michigan, and expected only a handful of people to attend. They underestimated the power of the American Legion. 3,000 people showed up to pay their respects. None of us figured that would be as big as it was, said Sergeant-at-Arms of American Legion Post 51, Richard Stewart. Every veteran has the right to have a funeral like this. These are just 3 stories. 3 stories from the millions out there to be told and heard. So before you leave here today, I have something to ask of you. Find someone here and ask them to tell you their story. Every single woman and man who has raised their right hand and pledged to give their life for their country if needed, did so for a reason. Ask them why. These stories and memories of ours are powerful. They are one of the most powerful weapons in securing a future for those who will follow us. As veterans, we are acutely aware of the sacrifices made by our service members. We are equally aware of the cost of those sacrifices. We know the value and the lessons that our military service bestowed upon us. These are the things we cannot afford to lose to time. American Legion National Commander Bill Oxford calls on us to build a foundation for the future. Sharing the stories of our heroes and their contributions to freedom is part of that future. The American Legion knows these stories well. We were founded on the heels of the First World War. The stories that arose from the ashes of the war to end all wars follow us. Like the legend of Marine Sergeant Major Daniel Daly in the Battle of Belleau Wood, or that of William Henry Johnson, an African-American soldier from World War I who was at long last awarded a much-delayed Medal of Honor by President Barack Obama in 2015. For the past 100 years, the American Legion has been dedicated to serving those who have served. The commitment to caring for America's veterans is one that transcends partisanship. It is a commitment that covers all races, all genders, and all faiths. The American Legion knows that service doesn't stop when the uniform comes off. As we honor our nation's living veterans today, it is fitting to bring to mind a piece of wisdom from Staff Sergeant Bellavia, who said, and I quote, "All throughout our history, we have had people that have dissented, that have disagreed, and we've found ways to put aside and focus on what is best for this nation, what's best for this mission, for the mission's success," unquote. And I would just like to read from this week's Viewpoint that was in the local press. Military life has had a strong presence in the North Country for more than 2 centuries, making Veterans Day a special day for many. The North Country has been home to the American military operations since the Revolutionary War. We all know the story of the Battle of Plattsburgh and how pivotal it was in the War of 1812. The site we now know as the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base has been home to military operations since the 1830s. The Reserve Officer Training Program, or as some of us know it, the ROTC, began in Plattsburgh in 1917 and was known as the Plattsburgh Idea. And of course, we hosted an Air Force Strategic Air Command base from the mid-1950s until it closed in September of 1995. With such strong military tradition, it is no wonder that Veterans Day means so much to so many. It is a day in which we honor those men and women who have honorably served our nation. Their commitment, sacrifice, and bravery can never be lauded enough. The day that we honor our veterans has an interesting history. It was first known as Armistice Day and was established to honor the end of World War I. That war officially ended on November 11th, 1918, in the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The U.S. government officially made it a holiday in 1938, calling it Armistice Day, and it was designed to honor World War I veterans. But just a few short years later, the world exploded into another world war, which surpassed World War I, which was truly a deadly event in its gruesomeness. After a few years after that, the U.S. was involved in yet another conflict in the Korean War. In 1954, in the wake of these wars, and at the behest of many veterans organizations, Congress changed Armistice Day to Veterans Day. The day has since been to honor all American veterans of all wars. It is different than Memorial Day, which is held at the end of May, which honors those who died in service for their country. The North Country does a fine job of honoring veterans, not only on holidays designated for them, but year-round. North Country Honor Flight has attracted hundreds of people to ceremonies the past 6 years, as dozens of veterans were honored with a trip to Washington, D.C. to visit our war memorials. Since 2013, North Country Honor Flight has flown 254 veterans on 17 flights to Washington. They operated 5 flights this year and have six flights planned for next year. The community has rallied around the program, raising funds in droves to pay for the flights. And one of the things that I would like to mention here is that this past summer, we had 2 veterans that came from Vermont that were going down onto the honor flight. And they asked if we could have some type of tribute for when they came across the bridge and came through the village on their way down to the motel to stay overnight for the honor flight the next morning. We put out the word on social media, and I am proud to say that both times we had over 80 people, Legionnaires, Sons, Auxiliary, and the general public show up down on Lake Street by the Recreation Center to salute those 2 veterans that came through with their motorcycle and police escort. I am very proud of this village. A loud, strong message has been made clear. The North Country loves, respects, and honors its veterans and will continue to do so. So, to those who came before me, to those who I've had the privilege to serve with, and to those who have followed, thank you for your selfless service, as today we honor those who have worn our nation's uniform. God bless you all for being here, and God bless these United States. At this time, our Honor Guard members will be going outside to fire a tribute to all of our brothers and sisters that have gone to their rest. You are welcome to join outside to stand out there. If not, you can stay in here. There'll be 3 volleys of fire and followed by the sounding of taps. And then we'll come back in here and we'll have soup and sandwich for lunch. Thank you.
That's right, right. Nice front. Honor guard, 10, hunt. 4, arm. Ready, arm. Aim. Fire! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Present, up! Order, out! Hurry, red!
These are ceremonies outside here. You're all invited now inside for lunch. Thank you.
Honor guard, 10, hunt. Follow.